Well, welcome. Do you want to introduce, well-known faces, but let's introduce ourselves.
I'm Andrew Till. I've got a channel on YouTube called Mr. EV.
Or the EV family now.
Well, yes.
Or the EV family and chicken.
Yeah, and the chickens, yes. So we have a menagerie of animals. In fact, my dog was in the last one. Poor blind dog that we've got. So anyway, yeah, so Mr. EV and family. So my wife, my daughter, 4 chickens, and a kind of senile dog. That's our family.
Yeah, my name's Alex. I run a website called theinterface.uk. Sort of car reviews on YouTube as well, and different podcasts and things. Also do a EV podcast as well once a month. So
yeah. Right, and people know me. So anybody listening to this channel know what we're talking about. These two guys know their stuff. So I think we're talking about the state. So we've spoken over the years, and I think things have changed a bit since we first started talking about EVs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I started back in the old days with a Leaf, and yeah, there were like, I didn't know anyone that had an electric car at that point. And just coming, when I went to FullyCharged, for instance, it was all quite new and exciting, and it felt very niche. It doesn't feel quite as niche anymore.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the number of vehicles out there compared to what we saw on the first FullyCharged is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and it's just accepted that people drive electric cars now. I feel a bit less of a weirdo, I think.
It was interesting when we were doing press tour earlier. Dan was highlighting the fact that we've now got vehicles for all the market sectors. And it's something I'm really conscious of at the moment, because obviously, as you know, I've got a young family, and I'm looking for something that at least 6 seats. And if I've been looking at a show ago or 2 shows ago, there wasn't anything. Well, there might have been the Mifa. That was probably about the only thing which had 6 seats out there. Yeah. Now there's tons of stuff out there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, in fact, I was saying to Alex earlier, we've got an EV9 on the drive at home, which I'm desperate to drive. But and that, I think, is a really good, big family car.
Yeah, well, I test drove the EV9 a few weeks back and loved it as a car. And the only problem I have, and this is a Kia issue and a high-end issue and a general Korean and Japanese car manufacturer, the way they've interpreted the new EU regulations on speed warnings and as you'll probably find out. So basically, as people may know, there's this new speed limiter regulation coming from the EU, which basically says you have to alert people if they go over the speed limit, and also alert them when the speed limit changes. And the way Kia Group and Hyundai Group have done that is to beep at you very loudly every time you go over the speed limit, or all the speed. Which is that one's not so much of an issue, because if you're not speeding, you're not going to get it. But it's the fact it happens every time you change speed limit, and it's really loud and annoying. And so that actually put me off. Even I mean, it's a stupid little thing, because otherwise it's a fantastic car. Yeah. Especially in its 6-seat variety with the captain seats and you can turn around and like that. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah, no, that sounds that sounds dreadful about all the beeping.
Yeah, the Genesis vehicles do that as well, because they're related.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's an interpretation, because, and if you talk to their PR, they say, it's because it's the EU regulation. But the EU regulation says nothing about beeps. Right. It purely talks about that having an alert, to be a visual alert or vibration. It doesn't say you have to beep. In fact, there's even a line in the regulations which says audio feedback may become annoying and not be listened to.
Oh, really?
so there's but that's not really the issue. I mean, it just happens to be noticeable with EVs because most new models are EVs.
Yes.
And it only has to come in when you get to a new model. So that's where the integration comes in there too.
Okay, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm certainly not looking forward to my wife driving. And getting that, because she'll rip it apart.
You can turn it off. I mean, but you have to turn it off every drive, which is the annoying thing.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the market out there, I mean, we know that the FUD level has increased a lot in the last year. There's obviously a campaign out there to denigrate EVs to some extent.
Yeah.
And it's something I've noticed. I'm noticing I'm getting feedback from people I thought I'd got really convinced about EVs. They're starting to believe some of this out there. What's your you've driven EVs for a long time. What's your experience?
My experience has been overwhelmingly positive, but then I think I'm a little bit of an optimist. And I think there are some things that I've put up with, and EV drivers that have been driving for a long time probably put up with, that other people might not consider, good. I mean, I'm just thinking of a lot of petrol heads out there who are used to used to filling up in a few minutes at a petrol station, and that for them makes a good car, it seems, based on comments I get. That's their definition of a good car. It's one that you can put fuel in quickly. Everything else seems to be forgotten. So when you try and explain that, well, yes, you do have to charge, and yes, it can. The batteries, if they're cold, they do charge a bit slower. All this kind of stuff, and you can see their face just dropping. And I don't want one then, So there's still a bit of that, but at the same time, I do try to say that the Ioniq 5 that we had was an amazing car. It did charge to 18 minutes. It took to 80%. I just driving here today. I stopped at the services, went in to pee, got a flapjack, came out. I would have easily charged up to 60% in absolutely. The Ioniq 5 in that time, and I don't think. And once you add children and everything and their needs and all that, you can easily take 18 minutes at services.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and that's what happens with me when I start at services. And I've got an EV6 which obviously charges in the same speed as you are used to. But if we look at what's happening in the battery market, I mean, we've seen new batteries coming out in the last few months, and the IM stuff which the site brand's bringing out with their semi-solid state and the solid state stuff. We're going to actually have batteries which will charge at a much higher rate because they generate less heat.
Yeah. And
I was talking to some people earlier about megawatt chargers coming in at services. So imagine a megawatt charger with a battery which can charge at 800 volts, for example.
Yeah.
You're talking a very quick charge. You are in that 5-minute range for a couple of 100 miles.
Yes, definitely. And I think when that comes in, and when more people have that, then obviously that kills that argument of the batteries just take too long to charge. But then I think there'll be another argument.
Yeah.
At that point, because I think a lot of these people just don't want an electric car.
Well, people don't want change.
They don't want change, exactly.
So there was a statement from I think it was a Canadian politician, but I'm not totally certain about it. But he basically said nobody will change unless you incentivise them on anything. This is not just EVs, but anything. If people will not change without incentives to change.
Yes.
I've got an IT background. I found that if you're trying to implement something like a security policy or something, people aren't going to do it unless they're not forced, but encouraged to do it. If that makes sense.
You need some sort of incentive.
Yeah.
And of course, all the incentives have disappeared in this country.
Yes.
Which may have had an impact. Plus, obviously, the campaign of FUD we all know about as well. So it's been a very interesting year, I think, in the market, and you can certainly see the impact on some of the startups in the EV world, which have fallen by the wayside in the last few months. I mean, a prime example is Fisker, who were due to exhibit here and are not exhibiting because of the financial situation they're in. That's all challenges out there because of obviously we've had the change of legislation about 2035, although that actually doesn't really impact the manufacturers.
Right.
Because the manufacturers have still got their 2030 deadline to get in, and they're getting fined as of this year. So
they've still got the ZEV thing.
Yeah, that's right.
They get fined 15k per car they don't sell, basically.
Which means we're going to get some real bargains at the end of this year. By next year.
There's also it's a cyber security policy as well. So they get fined 25k per car if they don't meet security regulations on the vehicle, and then also 15k if it's not an EV as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a huge incentive for them to actually sell stuff. And we already saw that last year that Volkswagen started discounting. I mean, the ID Buzz, for example, just before Christmas, you could get them at crazy lease prices because they just wanted to move inventory and to get their numbers up on the commercial side, because the commercial bit came in earlier than the vehicle, the car.
Well, there was a lease deal of a Maxus T90 last year, I think. It was £99 up front and £99 a month. Just trying to shift them for the end of the year.
And it works, because I didn't see any up until that point, and now I've seen the two drive around.
Now there is obviously a counter issue with that, is with all this offloading which goes on, pushes the prices down, second-hand market decreases. We know there's a huge amount of discounts being offered now on new EVs as well. I mean, list price is not what you pay these days. Whereas a few years ago, you were lucky if you could actually get it for this price. It would usually be pushed up a bit because people were trying to buy, or if you wanted something quickly, you wanted. And there's lots of supply as well now, so supplies coming up. And that. So the manufacturers are going to have to incentivise that, which means to push the prices down, which means second-hand market decreases, which is a bad thing and a good thing.
Yes.
It's a bad thing for all us early adopters who've got cars to shift and want to, but it's a good thing for anybody coming into the market who wants a second-hand car, especially with all and we spoke about this a couple of years back, all the company cars coming into the market now, which are coming to the end of their 2-year and 3-year lease time. which is basically flooding them. I mean, there's so many iPaces out there for sale
Right.
at ridiculously low prices.
I know. I've been tempted by an iPace. Every time I see an iPace, I think, oh, yeah, I've really. That's an itch I need to scratch.
Well, it's interesting because my former iPace is actually was on the second-hand market a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
The one I used to cover on my channel,
Yeah.
and that was 23k.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's a great car. It's fully
Yeah,
spec'd,
yeah.
it's fully loaded, 78k when it was new,
Yeah.
and it's only 4 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Five
That's crazy.
5 years old now. But
It's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, and quite low mileage.
Yeah.
And the other thing is if you look at a second-hand market, if you look for old EVs, so with really high mileage, they're peanuts.
Yes.
And luxury EVs, I mean, sort of things like Audis, and as I said, the iPace have really come down, and also the Porsche Taycan,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
coming up in ridiculous
Yeah.
prices. And some of those are going to be really good cars.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the other thing, of course, is that batteries last. We know now that batteries last ages, and that really isn't an issue about battery longevity. So a lot of these old cars on the used market, they'll be so good.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether we've reached the bottom, because I got my Nero last year for 19,000, and I thought, well, that's going to be the bottom, you know, from a 2020 Nero. But I think it's gone down even more. So
I have to say, anybody should watch Andy's channel for that video about how you bought that.
oh, thank you. Yes.
Because that is really interesting. The whole purchasing from the auction and everything. It's just a really interesting story.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we've got the chicken in it, of
And
course,
chicken is
which seems to be the favourite thing.
Which is absolutely.
Well, thanks there to both Alex and Andy. Really great to talk to you both at Everything Electric. Why is Everything Electric? Well, let's go over and talk to Dan Caesar, the CEO of FullyCharged, all about Everything Electric. Hello, Dan.
Good to see you, Gary. How many of these shows have you been to? All of them?
All of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not every
All of the UK
All
ones.
the UK ones, not
Yeah.
every location. I haven't done the
That's
Australian one.
still good going.
Yeah, I'd quite like to come across the Australian one. That'd be
It is amazing. I'm not going to lie. I've done this is 14 now.
Yeah.
Globally, I've done 13, so I think I've done more than anyone. But I didn't get to do Australia 1. So I got to do Australia 2, and it was amazing, I have to say. It was really, really good. Sunshine, positive people, positive politics.
Yeah.
It makes the world a difference.
It does,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah. So that
indeed.
was So if you can get yourself over there, I would recommend it.
Well, I also like a trip to Australia. So that's
Yeah.
So Everything Electric.
Finally, yeah. Finally, yeah. Well, it's been really, really good. Great response today
Yeah.
to our first day in London. I'm really, really pleased. The weather outside is absolutely frightful, which is great because we're all indoors here at XL. Test drives are running, albeit in London, so it's
Yeah.
a bit more challenging. But no, we're really, really delighted. We had a bit of a dilemma, I think. We've been very, very fortunate in that we'd run successive shows that have all been very, very successful. So to change the brand was obviously a little bit of a wrench. I felt strategically was the right thing to do because we wanted to be about more than just cars,
Yeah.
and we were synonymous with that. We felt it should be an electric home and motor show, electric lifestyle show. But equally, there were, for every person that knew FullyCharged, there were 100 people that hadn't heard of it and didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a rip the band-aid off quickly situation by rebranding to Everything Electric. But we've done 2 shows now under that brand, and it doesn't seem to have hurt us at all. In fact, I would say it's actually helping us.
Yeah. From what I'm talking to people I've spoken to, people seem to get it. They
Yes,
understand
it's
what
pretty
about.
pretty straightforward, but I can tell you there was no one more relieved than me when we went to Sydney and we changed the venue, the timeline, and the name all in one go. And the enormity of that hadn't really kind of sunk into me until the night before. And I thought, wow, that's quite a big risk. Let's hope it pays off, and it did. So I feel very confident now that we've got the right kind of brand name going forward, and we won't be changing it anytime soon.
And the first show in London.
First show in London, which again is a big, it's a big kind of challenge, really. It's a big thing to take on. I think we've done shows in cities before, but obviously the first FullyCharged live was at Silverstone, and then we went to move to Farnborough. And cities come with a lot of different challenges. So we felt it was really, really important to do it. I think that I had an email from someone Aberdeen yesterday saying bring the show to Scotland. The reality is that I think with Farnborough and London and Harrogate, we've probably got the right three venues for us to cover as much of the UK as possible, because as most people will know, we've got a global audience. So we'd love to do ones all over the UK, but the reality is we also want to do Australia and Canada and Europe as well.
Having organised events myself, I know how difficult this is. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge. The people at the team at Excel have been very, very helpful. Yeah. But there are just layers of bureaucracy here that you don't get elsewhere, which is not criticism. It's just the way it is when you deal with a bigger event in a city which has got lots of other things around it, lots of other stakeholders involved. So no, I praise the team for their patience in getting the show up and running here. But no, it's been a great first morning, and apart from the normal fatigue that you get, we're really excited about doing the next couple of days. And it's Easter weekend, so we're hoping to have lots of kids in as well.
I think you will. Certainly, I've seen quite a few around today, which has surprised me. So that's be good. And I think tomorrow will be even more so.
Yeah, that'll be good, because I might have got the bouncy castle myself.
I'm sure my kid will go on the bouncy castle.
Our kids are coming as well.
So you mentioned test drives. I'm incredibly impressed with the number of cars lined up out there. That must be incredibly challenging, though, to get something like test drives organised down there.
It is. I mean, again, I'm going to, really just thank the team that we have here. When we first did Silverstone in 2018, we weren't sure about test drives because we didn't want to build up too much expectation and demand that we couldn't supply. You'll remember back in 2018 there weren't that many cars. We felt it could be important, but we were quite scared of it because we'd organised lots of events. We hadn't done anything like that. And then in the first couple of years, we tried to help the manufacturers do it. We tried to help them, but they all like to do it very differently. So now it's much more, you go to the stand yourself and you book with them, and that works really, really well. And we're aiming for about 10,000 test drives here. Car companies can have, on average, they might have 10 cars, but some have more than that. It depends on availability for them and how hungry they are to get the test drives going. But we certainly think we might be able to, get one of the car companies out there 1,000 test drives in this show, and that's a huge needle mover in terms of getting people to say, I want one, I'll order one. So it's become, it's like not the only part of the show. We were always keen that it wasn't just a car show, but I think probably, maybe apart from Robert himself, it's become probably the biggest draw of all.
And it certainly is getting a lot of take up out there. I've just come back from BYD and test driving with and there was a queue 20 long of people waiting for their test drive. So
well, there's no exaggeration. We can pretty much fill as many as the car companies could provide. So actually, I think you'll see that grow and grow over the next few years.
That's really good and very positive. But let's move on to the bit I know you like, which is the home energy stuff. And it's great to see. I mean, Duracell launching. That's such a well-known brand. That's really, really good to see that, and a lot of other really interesting moves in that part of the industry.
It feels like the best balanced show so far. So obviously, when we first started, I would say 80% of what was on display was automotive related. We made a huge effort from about 2020 onwards to up the amount of home energy stuff in the exhibitions, and now it accounts for probably more than half of what's on display, or at least close to half. So I feel very pleased with that. So we have our two kind of big categories, which is vehicles, and as you know, we don't just cover cars, it's small vehicles, big vehicles, etc. And home energy seem pretty well established. Without wishing to be greedy, we're looking to also, under everything electric, bring in other things like appliances, cooking. We want to make it, I guess, a bit of a electric lifestyle. So electric home motor show. So I think there's more to come. But for me personally, you're right. It's a real passion, project. I think it's incredible that there's a home energy grant for heat pumps of £7,500 in the UK, and hardly anyone knows about it. So for us to be able to have all those technologies, I think we've got mostly everything represented, from heat pumps to different other heating technologies, and obviously all the smart stuff and batteries and solar and all the rest of it. So it feels like a good mix, and I think that bit will grow and grow as well.
I certainly heard a lot of conversations around about boiler replacements today.
Yeah,
It's been a hot topic.
yeah, it's a big. Yeah, I don't think that the reason for slow heat pump demand in the UK is down to lack of will from the consumer. I just think either deliberately or by accident, people have made the process much, much, much more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So hopefully, in our own small way, we can kind of make that a bit more frictionless. Mean that a consumer can come in and go, actually, I know there's a grant. I just now need to talk to the heat pump company, work out the installation. So I think that's getting better. It always staggers me that our heat pump adoption in the UK is so low compared to Scandinavia and Europe. I mean, if you look at the graphs on that, it's embarrassing.
But you have got the advice centre here again, which was a great thing from last time.
Yeah, that's been good. That's really popular. And so yeah, obviously every property is very different, so that gives people the opportunity to come and have a one-on-one conversation with people. So that's been a great feature. I'm really, really proud of that. We introduced the zero carbon kitchen last year, which I think is a great feature as well. New feature for this particular show is the EV live arena, where people are doing live car reviews. So as well as our presenters, we've got Roy Reid, ex Top Gear, and Quentin Wilson, ex Top Gear, doing car reviews as well. So we've been quite, I think, brave. We always like to try and add new attractions, and some of them work and some of them don't. Most of them fortunately have worked. We did a YouTube studio. I don't know if you know about that in Vancouver. It was actually really popular. But we have been, just each year we're sort of refining the process, iterating the show. When you're doing 5 shows a year, and the same team is doing them effectively, you take a lot of learnings into each show. So I think we're kind of improving each time we deliver a new event.
That's great. Well, it seems to have been incredibly successful again.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're very, very pleased. I think against a backdrop of a tricky UK economy.
I was going to mention that.
We've just come from Australia, which is absolutely booming, to the UK, which is struggling. So I'm not going to say there were no nerves amongst us around that. It has been difficult. Obviously, in September, UK sort of pulled back the zero emission vehicle mandate to 2035. Obviously, prior to that, the plug-in car grant and the EV charger grant had gone away. That has had a big effect on the impact on the UK market, plus general economic conditions, recession, etc. So unfortunately, we've seen a bit of a flattening out of the UK. However, zero emission vehicle mandate does have some teeth, and every car company will be fined £15,000 per car that they fall below the 22% sales threshold at the end of the year. So we do think at the back end of the year the car companies are going to have a bit more urgency. By the time we get to everything electric in Farnborough to sell cars, we do think that will then drive the charger market, and perhaps there will be an election and so on and so forth. So we do feel that second half of this year things will improve, and then 2025 things will start growing again. But the irony is Australia was miles behind, and we've allowed them to catch up pretty much. And we might not win this race, but we definitely don't want to finish last.
So next is
Harrogate, which is one of all of our personal favourites that we've done. Big favourite for our visitors and exhibitors, because it's I like Excel, I like London, but fundamentally you're in a big box in a big city. Whereas at Harrogate we were out in the fields. It's a fantastic view. It's feels like a real festival. So that was a great one last year. That was a launch last year. So we're really looking forward to going back to there. Then we'll have a brief nervous breakdown, and then we'll be back on the road to start prepping for Vancouver, which was a great launch show as well last year, and then finish off the year with Farnborough. But I'm currently engaged in what we'll do in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028 to lay out a program of events. Well, maybe we go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events by the end of the decade. That's the kind of the vision. Then we might stop, but we do think it's, without being conceited, we do think it's a really important thing, the mission, to get people into these vehicles. If mainstream media and the car companies haven't got the ability to do it themselves, we actually think we're providing a bit of a useful function. And we get stopped by people in the aisles here all the time saying, thanks for doing this, thanks for doing this, thanks for doing this, which is gives us a bit more strength to go again.
And I would definitely say thanks for doing this
Yeah.
as well, because it's definitely a highlight of my year coming to these events. So yeah, thank you for that. And what dates are Harrogate? People in-
That's a good question, Annabelle. What dates are Harrogate? 24th is Harrogate. Everything electric north is the 24th to the 26th of May, and that says it all. How focused I am on London.
Yeah.
So that's we've got what's that about 8 weeks after this, 9 weeks after this show before we do that. So yeah,
So when people are watching this, they should be buying their tickets.
no,
for
definitely
that.
can't. I mean, Harrogate's it is just a great place actually to stay.
Yeah.
Lovely place to go out and make a weekend of it.
It is a fantastic place to visit. So
And I'm hopeful that by that point the British Spring will have started. At
we
least.
could definitely do some better weather
Yes, it's been
that.
a bit wet. I think it's really what I think is the most fascinating thing for us now is going all around the world and seeing how every show gets a similar kind of reception, but obviously you've got different weather, time of year. You've got very different venues. So, and from my point of view, doing the ones in the sun in Australia was quite fun. We did rain when we went to Australia a bit, so I think we exported some rain as well as some good technology.
Well, Dan, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.